Imagine standing at the edge of the ocean before dawn. The world is still wrapped in silence. There are no spectators, no spotlights, no applause. Only waves keep moving, steady, relentless, without an audience to cheer them on. That image captures the essence of what it means to believe in yourself. Progress without performance, conviction without constant validation. Most people misunderstand belief. They think it's a surge of confidence after someone else tells them, "You've got this." They mistake it for the warmth of approval, the dopamine of likes and comments, the external nods that give temporary reassurance. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If your belief depends on applause, you are never truly free. You're addicted to a fuel that runs out the moment people get distracted. Real belief is different. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It moves in silence like the tide. It's a choice you renew every day, not an emotion you wait for. And it's this kind of belief, quiet, deliberate, resilient, that separates those who merely dream from those who build. This journey isn't about sounding confident, it's about becoming solid. It's about showing up when doubt whispers, when the crowd is absent, when results are still invisible. That's where belief is tested. That's where your foundation is forged. So stay with me, because over the next hour, we are going to break down the timeless pillars of unshakable self-belief, not as abstract philosophy, but as lived discipline. We'll explore why respect for yourself seeds respect from the world, why waiting for permission is a form of self-betrayal, why discipline is stronger than motivation, and why you must never shrink to make others comfortable. This is not just another motivational talk. It's an invitation to take your power back, to stop outsourcing your worth to other people's reactions, and to start anchoring it in your own actions. By the end, you will see that believing in yourself is not optional. It is the foundation of everything else you will ever achieve. Let's begin. 1. Belief as a deliberate commitment, not a crowd pleaser. Most people think belief is something you feel when the timing is right. They wait for conditions to line up, for a rush of confidence to appear, or for others to validate them before they dare to act. But if you live this way, you'll spend your life in hesitation, constantly pausing until you get a sign. Here's the truth. Belief is not a mood, it's a decision. And that decision must be renewed in silence, without external encouragement. Think about the ocean before sunrise again. No audience, no cameras, no clapping hands. Yet the waves keep moving. Why? Because movement is what they do. Belief works the same way. Every time you take a step without fanfare, writing a page no one will read yet, practicing a skill alone, refusing to break a promise you made to yourself, you're declaring, "I trust myself." This trust compounds. It doesn't arrive in one big burst. It grows layer by layer in quiet consistency. The danger of chasing applause is subtle but deadly. You might feel temporarily motivated when others notice your work, but the moment the noise fades, doubt creeps back. You start questioning, is it worth it if no one sees it? That question is a trap. If your progress only counts when noticed, you'll sabotage yourself in seasons of obscurity, the very seasons where the deepest growth occurs. Instead, treat belief as a contract. You don't need anyone's signature but your own. Every silent act of discipline, whether it's waking early, honoring your schedule, or training when you feel tired, is a clause in that contract. No one may witness it, but you know. And that knowledge builds unshakable confidence. This is why Stoic thinkers often spoke about virtue in terms of action, not applause. The wise person doesn't wait for praise to live with integrity. They live with integrity because it is the right path. In the same way, belief is not about looking strong, but about being strong, even if unseen. So ask yourself today, are you performing belief or are you practicing it? Are you chasing noise or building trust? Because the latter will carry you through storms, while the former vanishes with silence. 2. Self-respect. Before external validation, picture someone you know who doesn't have flashy achievements, expensive clothes, or a large following, but carries a quiet authority. They enter a room without announcing themselves, yet you sense their strength. That aura doesn't come from external titles. It comes from self-respect. Self-respect is the soil from which real belief grows. If you neglect it, you'll always chase recognition like a thirsty traveler searching for mirages. But when you cultivate it, you no longer need the world's permission to feel grounded. Let me share an example. I once knew a man named Tom. Not remarkable in appearance, not wealthy, not chasing prestige. But every morning, rain or shine, he walked. Not for Instagram, not for a medal, not to impress anyone. He walked because he had promised himself he would. Over the years, that simple routine turned into something profound, a visible strength that spoke louder than words. This is the power of self-respect. It doesn't show up in speeches or boasts, it shows up in consistency. The way you treat your body, the way you manage your time, the way you keep your promises to yourself, these are not small details. They are declarations of worth. When you respect yourself, the world eventually notices, but by the time it does, you won't need it. That's the paradox. The respect you give yourself first makes external respect a bonus, not a necessity. And because you're not dependent on it, you carry yourself differently. Less needy, more anchored. Think about it. How many times have you delayed pride until someone else handed you recognition? I'll feel proud once I get the promotion. I'll believe in myself when others say I'm talented. That mindset is a prison because your worth is now tied to variables you cannot control. Stoicism teaches us that freedom comes from mastering what is within our control. Respect for yourself is 100% within your control. You decide whether to ghost your own growth or honor it. You decide whether to show up or to quit quietly, and each decision carves your foundation. So if you want to feel confident, stop chasing applause. Start respecting yourself first. Walk like Tom, not because anyone is watching, but because you said you would. That's where credibility is built, not with others first, but with yourself. 3. Why waiting for permission is self-imposed imprisonment. Let's be honest. How many ideas have you killed because someone raised an eyebrow? How many times have you silenced yourself because others looked unimpressed? We mistake silence for rejection, hesitation for a verdict. But that's not reality. It's fear disguised as logic. Here's the truth. Your dream was never theirs to understand. It wasn't their job to clap. They weren't there when you wrestled with the idea in the quiet of night, when you sacrificed comfort for progress, when you whispered to yourself, I can do this. So why do we hand them the authority to decide whether we move forward? Waiting for permission is self-abandonment. It's outsourcing your voice to people who may be too busy doubting themselves to ever validate you. And when you live this way, you train yourself to look outward before you act. Over time, you forget how to listen to your own voice. This is why many people die with unspoken ideas and unfinished work, not because they lacked ability, but because they mistook other people's indifference as proof of their inadequacy. That's tragic. Instead, clarity must replace permission. Clarity says, I know why I'm doing this, and that's enough. Clarity does not wait for applause, it simply moves. It treats silence as neutral, not as rejection. And in that neutrality lies freedom. Of course, moving without approval feels terrifying at first, but think of it this way. Every great innovator, leader, or creator in history faced skepticism. The difference, they refused to interpret doubt as destiny. They kept building while others hesitated. So next time you share a vision and receive nothing but blank stares, breathe. Then say it again, then do it anyway. Because your voice deserves to be lived, not silenced by someone else's hesitation. Remember, the people who make it are not the ones who had universal approval. They are the ones who moved without it. 4. You are your own accountability partner. We all crave someone to check in on us. A coach, a mentor, a friend who texts, did you do it today? And yes, accountability partners can be powerful. But what happens when they forget? What happens when their own life pulls them away? If your belief depends entirely on borrowed accountability, it will collapse when life grows silent. That's why the most unshakable people are their own guardians. They don't wait for reminders. They are the reminder. This doesn't mean you never need support. It means you don't outsource your discipline. The central question becomes, did I keep my word to myself? That single question is more potent than any external check-in because it reveals the truth without excuses. Think about the difference between performance and consistency. Performance happens when people are watching. Consistency happens regardless. Belief built on performance is fragile. It disappears when the audience leaves. But belief built on consistency is durable. It survives obscurity. Each time you complete a task no one asked you to do, each time you train when no one claps, each time you choose structure over distraction, You strengthen that inner accountability. Over months and years, this creates a foundation so strong that even chaos cannot topple it. This is why discipline is often called the highest form of self-respect. It says, I am worth keeping promises to. And when you live that way, you stop seeking someone else to keep you in check. You become your own compass. So yes, find mentors, surround yourself with good people, but remember, you are the one who checks on you. And if you want lasting power, train that muscle every day. Because borrowed accountability fades, self-accountability endures. 5. Discipline as the antidote to doubt. How many times have you had a good idea, felt the spark, only to retreat because doubt whispered, "You're not ready"? That voice is relentless. It tells you to wait, to delay, to hesitate, and most people obey it. But here's the shift. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It cares whether you act. That's why discipline is the most reliable antidote to doubt. Every time you choose to act before you feel ready, whether it's writing the first line, making the first call, or stepping into the gym when you'd rather rest, you are teaching yourself a vital lesson. I can trust my decisions more than my emotions. That's belief in motion. This doesn't mean feelings don't matter. It means they are not the driver. Doubt can ride in the car, but discipline holds the wheel. Over time, this dynamic builds mental toughness because you stop negotiating with every excuse and start honoring your pre-made commitments. Consider the power of momentum. The first act of discipline often feels heavy, but once you begin, momentum builds. Suddenly, doubt loses its grip. You realize that most of your hesitation was not about capability, but about inertia. Stoic wisdom aligns with this. Epictetus taught that freedom comes not from indulging every impulse, but from mastering them. Discipline is mastery in practice. It frees you from the tyranny of moods. So next time doubt says, "Not today," answer with action. Even a small one, because each disciplined choice rewrites your identity. You stop being someone who waits for permission and start being someone who builds regardless. That's how belief becomes real, not in theory, but in practice. 6. Behaving like the future. You, today. Many people say, someday I'll change. Someday I'll be disciplined. Someday I'll act like the person I want to become. But someday never arrives because readiness is a myth. The truth is, transformation begins the moment you act like your future self now. If you want to be a writer, write today. If you want to be healthy, move today. If you want to be a leader, take responsibility today. Every small choice is a vote for the person you claim you're building. This isn't about faking it until you make it. It's about choosing it until you become it. Each decision either reinforces your old identity or supports your future one. Over time, these votes accumulate into reality. Of course, the temptation is always to wait for better conditions, more money, more confidence, more support. But life rarely hands us perfect timing. The only real time you have is now. Ask yourself, what would my future self do in this moment? Would they waste it scrolling? Would they delay? Or would they act quietly, decisively? Then do that. Not because the outcome is guaranteed, but because the process itself is proof of belief. When you align today's habits with tomorrow's vision, doubt loses its hold. You no longer chase motivation, you anchor yourself in identity. That's how growth becomes inevitable. 7. Endurance in the invisible mid-journey. The hardest part of any journey is not the beginning or the end, it's the invisible middle. At the start, excitement fuels you. At the finish line, rewards motivate you. But in the middle, fatigue sets in. Progress feels invisible. Applause is gone. And many quit here. Why? Because they mistake the absence of excitement for the absence of progress. But endurance is forged precisely here, in the silence, in the slow grind, in the unseen effort. The Stoics would call this the training ground of virtue, persisting not because it's glamorous, but because it's right. Each step in obscurity builds invisible layers of strength. When you decide that quitting isn't allowed, obstacles stop being threats. They become part of the climb. You stop negotiating with resistance and start accepting it as proof you're on the right path. This endurance reshapes you. It teaches you to trust your own words, to believe in your own promises, to respect your own resilience. That kind of belief cannot be given. It can only be earned. So when you hit that foggy middle where no one notices, remember, this is the test. And those who endure here don't just reach the summit, they become unshakable along the way. 8. Refusing to dim your light for others. Growth often triggers discomfort in others. You start improving, and suddenly someone says, "You've changed," as if that's an accusation. But of course you've changed. That's the point of growth. The temptation is to shrink, to dim your light so others feel comfortable. You think, if I speak less, they'll accept me. If I slow down, they'll stay. But this is self-abandonment disguised as kindness. Respecting others doesn't require betraying yourself. You were not meant to shrink so others don't squint. You were meant to expand. Real belief doesn't adapt to keep everyone comfortable. It elevates, even if it challenges. Some people are not meant to walk with the future version of you. And that's okay. Growth costs comfort, sometimes connection. But what you gain, clarity, peace, self-respect, is worth it. If your success unsettles someone, that's their mirror to face, not your responsibility to manage. You don't owe anyone a smaller version of yourself, so refuse to shrink. Stand tall, not in arrogance, but in clarity. The relationships and opportunities aligned with your growth will remain. Those that can't will fade. And in that space, what is real will emerge. Believing in yourself isn't a one-time event, it's a lifetime practice. It doesn't arrive in a thunderclap of confidence, it's built in silent daily choices. It's choosing to respect yourself first, to act without permission, to discipline your doubt, to endure the invisible middle, to shine without apology. So here's the invitation. Choose one promise to keep daily, a small one. Keep it, no matter what. That's your foundation. When doubt whispers, act anyway, even if small. That's your antidote. When others are silent, remind yourself, it's not their job to clap. That's your freedom. When tempted to shrink, remember, growth costs comfort. That's your clarity. No one will hand you the life you deserve. You build it brick by brick, habit by habit, choice by choice. And in that building, you'll find something stronger than applause: respect for yourself. That respect is the compass. It doesn't fade with silence, doesn't crumble with rejection, doesn't vanish when applause stops. It stays, and with it, so do you. So stop waiting, stop shrinking, stop asking for permission. Decide today, I will believe in myself, not for applause, but for impact, not for validation, but for truth. Because once you do, nothing, no doubt, no silence, no rejection can stop you. The ocean doesn't wait for clapping hands to rise. Neither should you.